Welcome, everybody. This is Karen Anderson. I am Director of Supporting Success for Children with Hearing Loss, and I am so excited to have such a big group joining us for this particular webinar. Usually, Supporting Success is very focused on providing supports for students with hearing loss so that they have access in a classroom setting. But with the recent pandemic situation, so many teachers and so many schools are dealing with e-learning situations and really need to figure out how to get captioning of their presentations. So we have created this specific webinar to e-learning. And access is not just for students with hearing loss, it really is for everybody. One of the three main principles of the Universal Design for Learning is to offer information in more than one format to give all students a chance to access the material as best suits their learning needs. And I was really interested in the results of a 2015 study that reviewed over 100 research studies, and it concluded that captioning a video improves comprehension of, attention to, and memory for the video. I think it's safe to assume that captioning is going to be of some benefit and maybe a great benefit for students in online instruction too. And that's our topic today. So again, we have a record number of registrants, and everyone who is registered for this webinar will receive a follow-up email with links to the brief videos, links to this recording, the PowerPoint slides, and also some other information that will help you better understand Streamer and get started on your own free 4-week trial period. So I'm very happy to introduce Rob Palmquist, and Rob has dedicated more than the last 15 years of his life to creating a really flawless online captioning system. The technology has just improved so much year by year. And I'm excited to have Rob come in and tell us about how to use streamer captioning specifically for e-learning applications. So Rob, are you there?
Yeah, I am, Karen. Let me turn on my microphone here so it can be captioned.
Okay,
There we go. And so now
sounds
everything
great.
that I'm saying is being captioned as well. So I think what I'll do, Karen, is I'll show some of the capabilities here. I have a few slides that I'll give an overview. And then after I give a demonstration, what do you say we come back to your website so that we can show folks how to sign up and how to get going?
Sounds great to me.
All right, let's
Take
go
it
ahead and
away.
let's go ahead and do that. So for starters, what you're looking at here is Streamer. And so this is an automated captioning system. In addition to that, you can do translation and note-taking, some other things, but we're going to focus here specifically on the ability to caption your live streams, your remote learning lessons. And so thanks everybody for joining us today. I'm sure you're very busy, so much going on. And what we're going to do is spend the next 25 minutes here showing you how you can caption your live streams and do it in a really easy way. And so let's go ahead and step through some of these slides and I'll show you what's going on here. So let me pull these up here. There we go. Okay, so first off, what is Streamer? Well, you're looking at it again at the bottom of your screen here. This is an automated captioning system, and it's a website that your school will own. This isn't an app that you need to download or install or do anything like that. Doing that sort of thing becomes very complicated in a remote learning situation because you have so many different students that you have to get installed apps and you can't go visit them and they can't come visit you. So it's just a whole lot easier when you just have a website to use. And so that's a really nice way to get started on using this system. I just want to mention this one right up front because we get asked this all the time with so many concerns, legitimate concerns about privacy and security, with these remote streaming systems and what's happening. Streamer is very much private and secure. This is not an afterthought. This is not something that we've worked on after we developed the website. We initially partnered with the U.S. Marine Corps on making this capability because the U.S. Marines need a secure system they can use for in-theater operations. And so on day zero, when we started this project, very much security is an element that is baked into the architecture, not an afterthought at all. So we'll definitely step you through some of those features and let you know just how much security you do control. Because it's a website, it works with pretty much every application that you would use for live streaming. So perhaps right now you want to use Zoom, but during the course of your day, you might jump into Skype, or maybe you have a phone system now on your computer like Ring Central or Grasshopper, something like that. Um, any application that you are using will work with this same captioning system. So you do not need to learn a separate one for Zoom and then a separate one for Google Meets and a third one for Skype. You're just going to be able to use this one system in all your situations. So again, we're making your life easy here. We don't want you to have to learn so many different things. And because it's a website, it runs well on pretty much everything that can connect to the internet using a browser. And so I know in a lot of situations, there's concerns about what sort of devices a student has in their home or wherever they are participating in those remote learning sessions. There's no concern here about compatibility because Streamer will work on anything that can use a browser that connects to the internet. And so this could be a laptop, but it could be also a $39 Amazon Fire. So Amazon sells those tablets quite cheaply, and it's going to run just as well on a $39 Amazon tablet as it would a $3,000 computer. We don't care at all about the CPU or the RAM or anything like that. And so it's absolutely fine to run this system on a low-priced platform. Absolutely fine with that. There we go. So again, you're going to have one captioning system that you can use any time of the day without any limits, with as many people as you want, and use it with any application that you're using for live streaming. Pretty simple. I kind of like that. Some questions that we got as we were setting up this webinar, so thanks for giving us advanced questions. And so one of them was group discussions. And so as a lot of you have been trying out various captioning approaches or language translation approaches, one thing you've discovered is that it's very difficult to support group conversations. So with Streamer, it will caption absolutely everyone. You saw earlier there, Karen and I just briefly chatting. You can have multiple people talking literally
break
at
in
the
at
same
any
time.
time, and we can both be captioned at the same time.
Exactly, there you go. So a live demonstration of that. It identifies people that are speaking. So if I hover over here, you can see a picture of Karen, a picture of me, and it gives the name of the individual that's speaking. And again, multiple people can speak at the same time. And so if you have a bunch of students in a remote learning situation where you're having a discussion, it's very common to have multiple people speaking at the same instant. Not necessarily that they're trying to be rude or something like this, but this whole
They can't
remote,
see each other to
they
be
can't
able to
see
see
each
who's
other.
going to take the next turn.
Yeah, so this whole remote learning is kind of a new experience for everyone. But with this software, we'll caption everyone at the same time, you know, no matter what they're saying. So that's a pretty neat little feature that is going on there.
So the classroom teacher, in order for that to happen, she would have to set up each of her students, say all 23 of her students, as part of her room or as part of her account on Streamer. You're going to talk to us about how that happens later, right?
Yeah, and
Great.
there's two terms here that come into play: streamer room and a streamer user account. And so, yeah, we'll get into that, and we'll explain those two different concepts to you, and hopefully we'll cover it pretty well for you. Another question that we had is multiple languages. And so this seems to be coming up more and more with IEP type situations where you need to be able to communicate with a parent or a guardian that would prefer to speak Russian or Vietnamese or Somali or Spanish, whatever it might be. And so with Streamer, it will certainly do that for you as well. So each person participating in your live stream, be it a Skype call or whatever it is, will be able to view the captioning, and if they want to, hear it in their preferred language. So even though you're saying something in English, they would hear it spoken out loud in Vietnamese or whatever language you're choosing. And then when they respond, you'll see and hear it in English. So
This is so important because teachers right now are reaching out to families to involve them in their students' education. And it can be really a challenge when the family speaks a language different than English. So this is a wonderful option to use
yeah, it really
Streamer.
is. Yeah, it really is a challenge, and it's so important. And you can comment on this a little bit, Karen, but I think it's so important to get parental involvement in what the child is doing, especially now that something new is happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and so with this now, you can reach out to a parent even if they do not speak your language, in this case, English. All right, let's jump into open and closed captioning. So Streamer supports both open and closed captioning. And I want to give my quick definition of what we're looking at in terms of Streamer. So with open captioning, everyone will see it. So absolutely everybody that's participating in your webinar will be able to view that captioning, and they'll be able to see it both live and later on when they're viewing a recording of your session. So if you are going to be generating recordings that students will be potentially watching at some time later, go ahead and use the open captioning, just like we're doing right now. And so that captioning is displayed at the bottom of the screen or at the side, whatever you prefer. You can position it wherever you want, and then the student will be able to view that captioning at any time. If you're doing a live streaming and you only want students to be able to view it at that time versus using a recording, then most educators seem to prefer using closed captioning. So with closed captioning, only the students that want the captioning will see it, and they can view it in their choice of 100+ languages. Now, at the very beginning, Karen was talking about the study where it benefits everybody to be able to view the captioning. And so I don't want to minimize that. I totally agree with that. And certainly having open and closed captioning, consider that in what you're doing here, going beyond just supporting a student who is hard of hearing to really supporting all the students and giving them all equal access to the conversations. Okay. So here's what you will do in order to start using your system. 2 steps here, and we're going to go through both of them for you. Number 1 is configure your system, and then number 2 is to use it. You just click on a desktop icon. So it will take you a little bit of time to configure your system. We'll go into that. To use the system, all you're going to do is double click on a desktop icon. So really simple to use it once you get it configured. And we're going to step you through that. The very first step of your configuring your system is to create a website for your school. Now, we recommend that you do it for a school or preferably an entire school district where you're just going to have one website to support absolutely everybody in that district. But if you want, you could create one just for yourself as a teacher, or maybe you want to use it to talk with an elderly parent, whatever it might be, you are more than welcome to create your own website. But again, what we recommend is you do it for a school district. That's ideal. But again, it's not necessary to do it for the entire school, at least at the start here. If you
yeah,
just
so our listeners here can sign up now and go to the streamerlink.cc/sfchl and sign up right now with their own information. And
that's
then they
right.
can play around with it for the next couple of days. And once they get used to it, maybe then bring it up to their principal or another teacher and say, hey, this is the experience I've had. Let's sign up.
Yeah,
And
exactly. Yeah.
and I think the cool thing too is that anytime you sign up, didn't you say there's a 4-week or a 1-month free trial, right?
Yeah, 30-day free trial, and we're not taking a credit card here or anything like that. So I know there's a lot of these, quote, free trials where you have to put a credit card down, and if you forget to cancel within 30 days, then you get charged. I really don't like that because that happens to me. I get charged. I forget to cancel. So we don't do that here. Again, we're trying to make your life easier, not more complicated. So there is no credit card or anything like that. So go ahead and sign up for your own personal trial just to play with it. And at the end of 30 days, it'll just go away. We do not charge you or anything like that. So it's very simple to get started. So again, you'll go to the website, as Karen just mentioned there. And when you do, all you have to do is fill in these short forms. So we want your email address because we're going to send you instructions on how to log in and how to use the system. When you get down to the part here where it says name your streamer account, what we'd recommend is that you put in your school district followed by -admin. And I'll get into that in a couple slides here, why we like that. And then the name of the room would be the name of your district and then -01. Now again, it's absolutely fine to create one for your own personal use, so you could just put your name in here or something like that if you just want to play. Remember to click the button. So when you fill in the form at the very bottom, there's a button there, and that's going to get you subscribed. Okay, when you do that, here's what you're going to get. You're going to get your first streamer room. And again, in the next slide here, I'm going to go over what a room means versus user accounts. You will get an admin account that you can use to manage all access and privacy settings. So as you've kind of gathered here, privacy and security are very important to us. We treat those very seriously. And so we give you lots of tools in order to be able to do that. You have unlimited captioning and translation. There is no keeping track of minutes, and if you go over your limit, we're going to charge you more or something like that. Again, we're making your life easy, so you don't have to keep track of anything like that, and an unlimited number of user accounts. So you can create as many user accounts as you want. To add additional rooms to your website, just contact us. When you create it, you're going to get that single room, your first room. But if you want 25 rooms or 250 rooms, just let us know and we will add them to your website for you.
So somebody would just email you and say, hi, I'm so-and-so, this is my email address. I just set up Greenvale-admin and Greenvale-01. Can you add another 22 rooms, please? And then you would add 2, 3, 4 and all of that until it's
Yeah. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, and we'd add them all. We do not want to know the names of the teachers or anything like that, or their subjects, or, again, we don't need that data, so we don't want that data. We just need to know the number of rooms. And so just send us a little note, again, with the email address, and we'll take care of you.
And all of them would have that free 30-day trial.
Yes. Yep. So, yep. So there's no charge here at all as you get started. We'll get into pricing, but it's very affordable. Trust me that. The streamer rooms. So I want you to think of the streamer room as being the equivalent of your classroom. But now we're online. So instead of a physical room that students go in, now it's a virtual room that they go in. So again, think of it as your classroom. Again, with each subscription, you'll receive an additional room on your website. Now, typically, but not always, typically in a remote learning situation, each teacher in your district has their own streamer room. That's not always the case. Certainly you can share rooms, and certainly there's situations where you'd want to assign a student their own room, but by far it's more common for each teacher in the district to have their own streamer room, just like they have their own classroom, their physical classroom within the campus themselves. User accounts is how a student is going to get into the room. So in a physical classroom, back in January when we used to be at a physical school, the students would just walk into your room. You didn't have a security guard out there, most schools anyways, right at the door where somebody was checking an ID before they came into your classroom. Well, now with a remote streaming situation, you really do want that. You don't want to just let anybody jump into your streamer room and disrupt things. You've probably heard all sorts of stories of other platforms where that's been happening. So what we have is a user account, and every user account will have a password. This is required for security. So for a student to enter your virtual room, they're just going to type in the password and be able to do that. This is a password that the student has for the student's account. It's not going to change. So do it once, and it's set up for all the remote streaming sessions. Again, we want to make your life easy here versus having to send out an invite code every time or a new URL code or something like that for every remote session. Here, we're just configuring it once and making it very simple. The accounts that the students used can either be a personal account that you set up for them. That's the ideal way to do it. or it could be a shared account that all students could use. So let's go over that concept here real quick. So you have a streamer room that, again, think of this as being your classroom, just like your physical classroom back at the campus. A student can enter that room, but now instead of just walking through the door, they're going to enter it with a user account. That user account typically has the student's name, first name, last name, and then it will always have a password associated with it. Okay?
So Rob,
And
can all the accounts have the same password? As the teacher is setting this up for her students and she's adding John Matthews and she's adding Susan Moore, is it important? Is it critical that all the students have different passwords, or can she
let's
set it up for everybody that it's 2468,
Yeah,
910?
yeah, you can certainly use whatever password you want. I guess, yeah, I'm a little more hardcore on the security, so I would not use the same password, because eventually the students are going to figure that out, and now they could log in using somebody else's account.
Oh,
And so, but yes, you could do that.
but
But
it's
certainly
not a good idea.
it's
Okay.
not a good idea. And you can change passwords, very simple. But yeah, I wouldn't recommend it, but it is possible. So again, in this case, 3 students in the room, but you could also use what we call a shared account. So right now, if you're a teacher watching this and you have 7 different class periods and you have 30 students per class, now we're talking about 210 user accounts that you'd need. And you're thinking, boy, that's going to be a lot of work to set up those user accounts. Well, it's really not a lot of work, but we can even make it simpler for you. Again, this whole drive here, let's make things simple and easy. You could create a single shared account that all these students are going to use. And so with a single shared account, you could have 30 students come into your classroom. The security here has dropped a little bit now because everybody's using that same shared account, but nobody outside of those individuals that know that account name and the password could use it. So you're
So
not going to.
this Yeah, so this would be good for those situations like, 8th grade English, where the teacher's going to be presenting information and it's going to be like a lecture with very little discussion. Because if everybody's sharing and then somebody responds, nobody's going to know that it's a different person than the teacher, right?
Right. Yeah. So you're going to use this well, again, to make your life simple. So to get started, so instead of creating accounts for 210 students, you could use this just to get started. Another place where this comes in, I just did this last night for a school district that was doing a remote webinar for the entire city, if you will. And so this was for parents, because the idea was to involve parents in what's happening with the remote learning. And so they set up captioning where parents were able to view it in whatever language they want, and they just generated these shared accounts. I think in this case they had like 6 different shared accounts, one for English, one for Spanish, one for Somali, and the other languages that they thought would be more popular in that city. And so it was a way of enabling parents to easily view a captioning of that presentation. But bottom line, you can use shared accounts or private accounts, and so it's a nice way to have some flexibility. The personal user accounts are an account set up for just one person. So you as a teacher, you're going to do that for yourself. It takes you about 30 seconds. I'll show you that in a minute here. You can also create one for students if desired, or you could create, as we just talked about, a shared user account that all the students are going to use. Okay, so a couple different options there. And let me pull up the website here, see if I can get over to it.
So if you want to have a learning environment where you're going to present information as a teacher and then have some discussion generated and have the students be able to see who's talking, the teacher's really going to need to then be adding her students to her streamer account so that all of the kids can see when somebody is speaking.
Yeah, and
Got it.
so either the students will create those accounts themselves, or the teacher can. And so either way, an approach works fine. But no matter what, when the student creates the account, you alone as the teacher control whether or not they have access to the room. A student cannot grant themselves access to your room. That would go against the privacy policy. Again, you as the teacher control all access to the room. And so the student will create an account. You just need to know that account name, which is typically the student's first name and then last name. And then you will allow them to have permission to get into your room. Let me show you how to create an account. So all you would do is go to streamer.center, the website here, and click on login. And then I'm going to click on the create one option here. So instead of logging in, I'm going to create a new one. And I'm going to type the student's name. So in this case, if I was creating one for Jim Smith, I would say first name dot last name. I would put the email is only used if they forget the password. We're not going to send out any advertising literature or anything like that. This is purely used if they forget their password. We're going to email them a link. So whatever you want to put in there is fine. Select the country. The preferred voice, most of you really won't have to worry about that. That's only being used for language translation situations where your voice is going to be, your preferred voice is going to be used to speak what you're saying in that second language. So for example, I would pick a voice that matches mine, and then when it's translated into Russian or Vietnamese, that voice is going to be used for that foreign language. This is also used for speech generation. So if you have a student who's nonverbal, you can have a streamer speak for them. Password just needs to be 8 characters long. Pick whatever you want, and that's all it takes to create an account. So probably less than 30 seconds if you just did it versus talking about it. Okay, so let's jump forward a little bit more. The final step on configuring your system, earlier I mentioned that when you use it, you're just going to click on that desktop shortcut. Very short, very sweet, very simple to use. And when you do that, you're going to be placed directly in your room. So this is all part of configuring your system. Once you've done it, all you need to do is go to that desktop shortcut. So the steps to create the shortcut are pretty simple. I'll demonstrate them here for a second, but you're just going to log into your streamer account, click on the room that you'll be using, and then follow these steps, and I'll demonstrate those for you right now. So I'm coming up to the Chrome settings. I'm clicking on that, coming down to the More Tools option, and here I have the Create shortcut. And when I click that, it's going to generate a shortcut for me. In my case, I kind of like knowing what room I'm in. So in this case, I'm in the Success for Kids room, but the room name would be probably named after yourself. And then you're just going to click Create. And so when you do that now on your desktop, which my desktop's pretty cluttered here, guess I won't show it to you, but on the desktop now there is a shortcut that all you need to do is double click, and it's going to place you directly in your room. So you no longer need to remember the website to go to or your account name and all those steps. Just double click on that shortcut, and it's going to place you directly in your room. So that's a really nice way to be able to, again, make your life simple, make it easy to do. Okay, let's talk really quick about closed captioning versus open captioning. So remember, closed captioning, what I'm meaning by that is that the students are going to be able to view the captioning on their end. And so just the students that want to view the captioning will do so. And they can do that in whatever language they want. So on your end, you're going to double click, when you start your remote session, so your Zoom meeting or Google Meets or your Skype phone call, whatever it might be, you're just going to double click on your desktop shortcut that we just created. You'll click on the microphone down here in the left corner to activate your streamer website. And I'm sorry, to activate your streamer captioning. And everything that you say is now captioned. You can collapse the window. It doesn't have to be viewed, so it's fine to run it in the background. And so if you want to display a video or something like this, you do not need to have the captioning, the streamer window, being visible. It happily runs in the background, and it will continue captioning everything that you're saying. On the student's end, they're going to do the exact same thing. They're going to click using their shortcut, and when they do that, they will be able to view the captioning. You as a teacher also have the ability to turn on and off the microphones for students. And so if you're giving a lecture and you don't want students to jump in and make random comments or something like this, turn that off. And they'll only have the ability to view what you're saying, not to be able to make comments. And at some point during that remote learning session, you may want to open it up for discussion. And so in that case, you can open it up, turn it on, and there's a command that you enter to turn it on or off. So it's a pretty simple thing to do. Here is a video that goes over more detailed instructions. It's only about 5 minutes long, so it's not a really long one, but certainly that's going to give you more instructions on how to do that. One item in particular is if you're doing closed captioning, for a best practice suggestion, we recommend that you start your webinars by always sharing that information, so you remind students how to log in. And so these are the steps that they're going to use, or they just click on, again, that desktop shortcut if they've created one. We'll include a link here in the comment section of this video and what we'll email to you. And with that, you'll get a template of this slide, and I'll also show you how to create an image of yourself that can go on that, just to give a little visual picture of yourself in addition to the desktop that you're sharing. So that's closed captioning. Open captioning means everybody is going to view the captioning just like it's happening right now. So at the bottom of the screen, this captioning is being scrolled across. If you're going to record this and use it for a video later on, this is a great way to do that. Also, as Karen mentioned, now everyone is going to benefit from being able to view the captioning. And that's a really good point that you made, Karen. So again, you're just going to double click on your desktop shortcut. Now you're going to add a streamer window to your live stream. So you're going to share a screen that's showing the captioning. Click on the microphone and everything is captioned. So the only difference here really is this second step where you're sharing the window with everybody. Here's another video that's going to show you how to do that. In this particular case in the video, we focused on using Zoom, but it's going to be the same approach no matter what platform you're using for live streaming. So again, that's open and closed captioning. Going to get to a little more detail here. Taking this probably, I guess, to step 2 of the capabilities. But on your school's website, what you're going to have is an admin account. And so again, our recommendation is that you do this at least on a school-wide, preferably district-wide. But you're going to have an admin account that gives you access to all the rooms associated with your website. And so if you have 52 rooms or 500 rooms, whatever it might be, you're going to be able to view all those rooms. You, from a global standpoint, are going to be able to set access and usage permissions that all teachers and students will have to follow. So there's a hierarchy here that you have the ability to mandate various settings that everybody has to follow. Everybody else could use stricter settings, but they can't relax them on you. You also have the ability to send messages to everybody. A very nice tool that you could broadcast a message to every student, every parent, every teacher. You can focus those messages however you want and be sent to everybody that's using your system. And you can monitor usage. And so if one room isn't being used and you need to redeploy that to another school, that's trivial. It's very easy to do that when you set it up in that way. So also on your school website, you are now going to have teacher accounts. This kind of sounds complicated, but it's quite easy once you start doing it. Each teacher is going to be able to see the rooms that they have access to. So they're not going to see everybody's room in the school district. There's no reason to do that. I guess you could let them, but from a security standpoint, we recommend that you have teachers have access only to the rooms that they can use. Within those rooms, they can control who can access it. So if they want to let a student in, they can, but the only way a student can enter is if you as a teacher give them permission to do so. By default, nobody can access your room. You have to manually go in there and say, okay, this student from now on will have access to my room. You do it once and they always have access. You don't have to do this every session or something like that. They'll always have access until you turn that off, okay? Other things you can do, share documents, drag and drop, and so every student's going to have them. I mentioned earlier the ability to turn on and off the microphones for other students. Now the third level here, so we went over the district-wide, the teacher accounts, and now a student, when they log in, again to this website, they're only going to see the rooms that they have been granted permission to see. And so if they have 7 teachers, they're probably going to see all 7 of those rooms, and they would be able then to access those rooms. Okay. All they do is click the name of the room and they'll be entered into the room. It's just like they walked into the physical room for 3rd hour. And then for 4th hour, they would leave that room and go into the next one. Multiple students, of course, can be in all the rooms. And also I should mention, as the student is listening to your lecture, they have the ability to enter personal notes into the transcript. And so if I launch the side panel here, I can briefly show you how that works. And so as you are talking, if you get to a point where you're talking about the exam for next week, a student could tag that part of the transcript just by double clicking. And when they do that, that's a personal note that only is included in their version of the transcript. And so again, if they want to ask a question about this later on, they'll just double click and that'll get entered into their copy of the notes. Then when they go down and download the transcript, and again, you control all these permissions, so you can turn off this ability for them to download a transcript. But if they save this, for example, as a Word document, now it will have the transcript itself plus all those areas where they've added notes or tagged areas of interest. They can also, yeah, go ahead, Karen.
Well, yeah, and it has a neat summary feature too. I
Yeah,
wanted to say that the different tags, the teacher can add tags, or she can make it specific for her whole class to use different phrases if they want to, or if you had a child as the user, they could go in and add phrases too.
yeah.
And am I right? The teacher isn't going to be able to see what the child has tagged.
That's
Um,
right. They're,
yeah,
they're private and personal notes. And what I clicked that kind of fast here, so let me do that again. So what I did is I went up here to account settings, and when I click on that, here's all my account settings, so I can change my language, my preferred voice, this sort of thing, my username, password. But down here is where the phrases are. And so here is where a student can add or create new phrases. So lots going on here. They can color code them. Here's the title of the phrase, but then the phrase itself that gets inserted. So for example, if I scroll over this title, the title is didn't understand, but what actually gets inserted is I didn't understand what they were saying. So again, this is just a short reminder, but when I double click it, that's what gets entered. So kind of a nice feature here. And again, probably a little, let's call that phase 2. So at the start here, we're just focusing on captioning of your live streams, but students will very quickly realize this ability to add notes, to save the transcript, and when they save the transcript, they'll have an automatic summary of that lecture. And so if you have an hour-long lecture on history, at the very top, they'll have 2 or 3 sentences that condense not the entire contents of that lecture, but summarize the meaning, so at least they know that it's about George Washington or whatever the event was that you were talking about during that particular session. So it's kind of a nice feature. I do like that one. That was actually that was an idea that you came up with, Karen. I think.
it was. I always
Yeah.
liked the feature of the Microsoft Word program where you could go and summarize a bunch of text, and like that. Sometimes the summary is really pretty accurate, and sometimes it's not so much. So it's a nice feature if you're trying to sort lectures from one to another and just do it quickly. But I wouldn't expect to have it be a fabulous description all the time.
Yeah, no, it won't be. It's just a rough approximation, but it's a really neat way to be able to quickly go through a
Differentiate.
lot of files and figure out which one you want to actually read.
Hey, before we jump into this piece, let's talk about microphones and accuracy. Um, I want to make sure people realize it's not the speed at which somebody talks that makes a difference in accuracy. You could speak really fast and it still is quite accurate. It's
Yeah, that's right. I like talking fast sometimes, and I do talk too fast sometimes, but you can see it kind of keeps up with what I'm saying, even though I'm talking much faster than what a human could possibly understand.
but with Streamer, it accurately transcribes or translates what it hears accurately or what it perceives accurately. So I know I am using a microphone. I have a headset microphone with a boom mic on it, because my computer microphone, even though I'm sitting right in front of my computer and it's a quiet room, there still is a distance factor where it's not going to be as accurate without me using a microphone. And so really, if you want to have an accurate translation of your captioning of what you're saying as a teacher, it makes sense to use a microphone. It doesn't have to be an expensive one at all. It just needs to be something that picks up speech closer to your face that is also plugged into your computer. And then the students who are out there as part of the discussion, virtually all of our little Chromebooks or iPads or even the cheap Amazon Fire do have a microphone as part of them. So we need to let our students know, number one, they need to be in a quiet room. Their dogs should be out of the room and not barking. Brothers and sisters shouldn't be playing. It should be a quiet learning environment. And then when they talk, they probably need to be aware of where that microphone port is, where that hole is, and either lift it up and talk into it as though it's a microphone, or simply be close to their computer screen when they respond to that discussion or when they offer a comment. Because we want this to be accurate. And as you've noticed, the accuracy is about 98%. It's not ever going to be 100%, at least not at this point, because people don't always speak 100% clearly. But if we can make it even more accurate by using microphones or having kids speak more closely to their desktop device microphone, that's going to really provide that access that we want. And we don't want to have kids distracted by a lot of inaccuracies either. So there's a couple of reasons why it's really important to make sure there's a microphone involved from the teacher's standpoint, and to let our kids know about how to appropriately answer so that the captioning is as accurate as possible.
And yeah, great points, Karen. Thanks for making that. And it does not have to be a really expensive microphone. The one I'm using right now costs $15. It's made by Andrea. I think it's called the NC8. And so it's a very affordable microphone, and that's what I use. Yeah, and in terms of accuracy, I do a little commercial here, I guess, for ourselves. The last trip that I took before everybody got quarantined here, so in the end of February, I was in Geneva at the United Nations as part of what they call their Zero Project conference. And there they did a week-long evaluation of automated captioning systems compared with human typists. And this was live sessions at the United Nations, 3 simultaneous sessions going on 8 hours a day for a week. And they measured and correlated everything. And at the end of that entire evaluation, they selected Streamer as being the approach that they are going to use from now on. Now, this is for the Zero Project conferences, but clearly we were far more accurate than the human typists, and was used, continually doing translations, in this case, into roughly 100 different languages, a very large assembly there at the United Nations. And so, yeah, it's kind of a big deal to be selected by the United Nations as being the system that they're going to use for providing live captionings and translations of what's being spoken. So again, that's for the Zero Project portion of the United Nations. And so again, kind of a big deal. So,
It is a big deal. And what I like is that we can offer streamers so everybody can try it for that 30-day trial period. And then if it is something that the school district wants to use, or you want to use it just for that one student who's hard of hearing, or if you want to use it for your kids who are English language learners, or even just for families during IEPs, tell us about the pricing.
So let's get into that. And so the pricing here, so this is the most expensive option. And so everything else gets lower in price. So I'll start with the high price. And so that's going to be $9.97 a month. And that's for a single month subscription. Again, you're going to get 4 weeks free, but after those 4 weeks to continue using the system, that's the price that you'd pay. And that's for unlimited use with as many user accounts as you want. But what that's going to get you is a single streamer room. Now you could have one person, 20 people, 200 people, 2,000 people in that room. It's all the same price, just that $9.97. So there is no per user fee or anything like that here. It's
So
much more
for our discussion of the e-learning or remote learning situations, if you have 20 different classroom teachers for grades, 3 through 6, and they're all doing remote learning in a particular school, or 3 through 5, you're doing remote learning in a particular school, then each of those 20 would have a charge of $9.97 a month.
well, that would, yeah. So we're going to give you discounts, and so when you
Discounts are
start,
good.
yeah, when you get into 20 or so, then the price keeps dropping. And so again, if the most expensive is $9.97 a month, and that's for a single room. And if you were to buy that on an annual basis, then that price comes to $8.25 a month. And so if you do the math, $8.25 times 12 comes to that $99 per year amount.
Pretty cheap for this kind of access.
Yes, and again, there's no limits here whatsoever, so you don't have to worry about that at all. Now, with that, you're going to get your single room, the admin account, those things that we've mentioned before, includes all features. So I know in a lot of apps, and again, this is not an app, this is a website, but in a lot of apps, what software developers do is they get you to pay some low fee to get your foot in the door. And then once they've locked you in, then you have to start buying all these add-ins. So it's like, oh, you actually wanted to use it for more than 5 minutes a month. Now you have to pay $10 more. And oh, you want to use it for, supporting more than 2 people. Well, now it's another $10.
But we don't do that.
Yes, it's all a flat fee. We're trying to make your life easy. So there are no add-ons here. There's nothing to consider that you would buy in terms of additional features or something like that. The only thing that you're paying for is per room, and that's it. Every feature is included. We don't limit you or lock down the ability to download a transcript or something like this, which again, so many companies do. It just frustrates me. And again, as Karen just mentioned, the more rooms you get, the larger the discount is going to become. So that starts at 10 rooms. If you're going to equip an entire district with rooms, don't multiply $10 times 500 teachers. You're going to get much, however many muches I just said there, an affordable price. So we're going to make this work for your budgets. And so again, the goal here is to help students, and especially help students during this period of remote learning. And later, when they come back into the classroom, because we are going to open up classrooms again at some point, they will still be able to use this same capability. So now they're viewing the captioning in the classroom versus in their home, but it's the exact same website, very similar setup, where everything that you're saying will be captioned. They'll be able to see the captioning, add notes to it, see the captioning in whatever languages they want. So a lot of capabilities going on here.
So back to that concept of universal design for learning, and if kids already are in a district that have Chromebooks on every desk, for example, it just expands that universal design and allows captioning at a very affordable price.
Yeah, and so any student that has that Chromebook, you don't have to buy any equipment for them, and you don't have to buy a separate subscription for them. They're just going to view the captioning of that classroom. It's really kind of a neat way to do that. Yeah, I do like that. So questions. So several things that Karen and her team have put together, and one in particular I want to mention is the YouTube page. Now, we at Auditory Sciences, we're the developers of the software. So we obviously understand the software very well. We know all the technical nuances. We know what's going on here and how we dynamically update the words. You've probably been seeing as I've been speaking here that words get corrected both new words and previously spoken words, and that's why our accuracy is so strong, that we have the ability to do both forward and reverse contextual mapping and all these things that are going to make your eyes glaze over. But we understand the technology very well. What Karen and her team understand, in addition to the technology, is how to use it in a classroom setting. So we deploy into churches, into businesses, into military campaigns. We're working very strong right now with the World Health Organization on using these systems to communicate with their teams around the world as they respond to the coronavirus situation. So we're all over the map. But Karen and her team are specifically focused on education settings. And so they're going to know much better than we are all the nuances of what it takes to get this included into an IEP or the various situations involving a classroom. So I strongly suggest that you go to their website. I'll let me show it here in a second, Karen. But here are the YouTube videos that they put together specifically for use in a classroom. These are really nice. They're really short. They're really concise. And so if you want to know how to integrate an existing Phonak wireless FM system, they have a 1-minute video that'll show you how to do that. If you want to know how to create that desktop shortcut, all these various short videos, when you call, you ask them questions. If they get that question repeated several times, they're going to create this 1-minute video to show you how to do it. It's a really great resource. Please go ahead and use that.
And again, these are all very specific to use in the education setting, the grade, say, 5 or 6 through 12 plus higher education. And when you receive the follow-up email.
Hey, Karen, I think you left your microphone off.
I did.
There we go.
There, sorry about that. When you receive the follow-up email, you're going to be receiving it from a man named Mike Massini. And Mike works with Supporting Success, and he is our go-to guy for working directly with schools. He is the one who is able to answer a lot of information about, a lot of questions about using microphones and specifically to students who are deaf or hard of hearing and their use of hearing technology. But the remote education system as well, it's all about education. And so he's going to be sending out the follow-up email. Save your questions, get ready, think about this. What other things didn't you learn? Look at the video, all of that. But if you want to ask questions, you will already have an email from him that you can just reply to. So very happy that he's involved as a person on tap specifically for educational settings. And in terms of purchasing, you would go to the Supporting Success website, which is successforkidswithhearingloss.com. And at the very top there, you can see the streamer automated captioning. So when you click on that, it will bring you to our 5 streamer pages, one of which is streamer purchasing. And it will provide you the information about the second pick right there. It will provide you with our choices. You can get a free trial, so you certainly can set it up from what Rob has sent you, but it's also available on the website. You can do it monthly or annual subscription for 1 room or for 10 rooms. If you want to do more than 10 rooms, most of the time schools want to do a purchase order, and we take purchase orders. So if that's the case, give Mike an email. He's at streamer-support at successforkidswithhearingloss.com, and he will be able to walk you through our discounts. So we do take those purchase orders, and that's how schools mainly buy this sort of an option.
Hey, one question that I got here, jump in here really quick and interrupt, but I've had several questions coming in on asking about student-friendly filtering. And yes, so that's included in the website. And so any inappropriate language, and I'm not going to demonstrate that live right now, but any inappropriate language will be identified and will be replaced with asterisks. So definitely that is part of the built-in capabilities of the software, is to be able to filter out those inappropriate words. So I
Very
just wanted to,
important when dealing with students.
yeah, I just wanted to make sure that that question got answered here. Um, okay. All
All
right.
right.
And I think we've covered pretty much everything that we wanted to here, Karen.
Yeah, we did, and we did it in an hour instead of 30 minutes, but there's a lot to captioning. There's a lot of options. There's a lot of features, and hopefully our viewers really have learned a lot too. And again, this follow-up email you're going to receive is going to have this recording. It's going to have the PowerPoint slides. It's going to have direct links to some of our the short videos about captioning and both open captioning and closed captioning. So look for that. It'll probably come out by the end of tomorrow, I would think. And feel free to give us an email and further contact us further with questions. Go to the website. There's always more to read there as well, or that Interact Streamer YouTube channel. So thanks to everybody for your participation. Thanks much to Rob for presenting all this great information. And we look forward to you getting your own streamer account set up and get going and start playing with it. So thanks again, everybody. Thanks, Rob.